Delayed grief is a real thing. When my mum passed away, I wasn't there. I didn't even know. I had to figure that out on my own. The last memory I had of my mum was her laying on the hospital bed with tubes everywhere and her crying and holding a picture of me. That was the last memory that I had of her. And the adults in my life at that time didn't tell me, they didn't sit me down and say, hey, like, this is what's happening, etc., etc. No, that didn't happen. And so for a good while, I probably thought that my mom was alive until I figured out that she wasn't. And that was only because my childminder at the time was like, oh, your mom's an angel, she's sitting next to you. And then that's when I was just like, okay, my mom's not coming back. And so I didn't have the opportunity to necessarily grieve the woman that was a part of a full 7 years of my life. She was a single mom. We did everything together. I went everywhere with her. Like my mom was amazing. The memory that I have of her in those first 7 years, right? And those memories were strong. And so it wasn't until I got to my late 20s, and that's when I really started doing therapy, mid-late 20s, it wasn't until then that I really had the opportunity to grieve. Yeah. Like there was always this deep sadness around the existence of my mom, and it was almost as though like she lived but she wasn't in my reality. And so it wasn't until my therapist was like, you haven't grieved, I was just like, oh man. And the thing is, I felt really bad for grieving because I kind of felt like it meant that I didn't have faith in God. I know, it's so weird. It was like, did I not have enough faith? Like I should be over this at this point, etc., etc., etc. But that was a lie. That was a lie. And Dr. Anita Phillips said at the conference, which I thought it was so powerful, that grief is holy. And you have different moments in the Bible where God actually grieved, right? And so she was saying that grief is holy, is something that we should honor. It's part of the human experience. Now, that was something that I discovered as I was doing therapy, but I didn't realize how many people have felt bad for carrying grief, carrying sadness, or feeling like that type of sadness or that type of weight is not significant to God, like that we cannot carry it to God, you know. There was something that I taught, and I'll put maybe an insert here, but there was something that I taught that you can still grieve and believe God at the same time. And it was taken from John chapter 11, I believe, with Lazarus rising and his sisters grieving and showing Jesus also troubled and grieving as well. Again, grief is holy. And, that's something that I've had to learn, And so me grieving well, me giving myself the opportunity to go through the process of grief has actually brought me to a place where my mom is not just a part of my timeline, but she is brought into my reality. Like she actually lived, and that grief looks different in different seasons. Like there was a point, or there was a time that I had to grieve when I got married. It came up a lot then, like my mom wasn't there. There was a point I had to grieve when I had my son, like she wasn't there for that. And so grief comes at different points, but grief is not a sign that you are not making progress. It's a sign that you are human. And so I want to encourage anyone right now that feels guilty, no matter how many odd years. Remember, my mom passed away when I was 7. I started grieving late 20s. Like, listen, it's not too late to grieve. Okay? It's not too late. Grief is holy.